Hey world, this is Justin, and you are tuned to Anywhere the Needle Drops. So we've got another bonus episode for you here today. It's our off week, but last week we spoke to David Lowry of Cracker and Camper Van Beethoven, so it seemed fitting to hop back into the time machine all the way back to 2014, the original run of the show, when I first sat down with a member of the band Cracker. That time I sat down with Johnny Hickman, so I dug that file out of the archives. I threw it at our friend Paul of Theory One Productions so he could pretty it up, and we're going to throw it to you right now, the remastered version of my conversation with Johnny Hickman. A little testing and you should be good right about there.
Okay,
so,
cool.
Yeah, so how's it going? I mean, You've been doing this for a while now. You've got a pretty successful career going on.
Yeah, David and I, we knew each other about 10 years before we started Cracker. I was in other bands, and he had Camper Van Beethoven, and we had been playing in bands since we were kids, in the new wave punk rock days, and suddenly there was a time when neither of us was in a serious band. I was up in Bakersfield playing country, which I love, and he was in Camper Van Beethoven, just broken up, so we got together and just to see what would happen very casually, and music started coming really quickly, and we've been at it ever since. That was 1991, so we have been going steady since. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So you were in some bands prior to Cracker, though.
Yeah, a few here and there. There was a band called The Dangers who sadly never made a record, but they're making records now. But at the time, we were 78, 79, 80. New wave, sort of punk rock, very pop, very Brit punk rock influenced out in California. And David was a little younger than me, but he and some of the guys in Camper, before Camper formed, would come and see Danger shows, and so we were all kind of part of a big family. And it was really cool.
Yeah. So at what point in your life did music sort of become like, this is what I'm going to do to make a living, this is going to be my career?
Idealistically at around 7.
Sure, yeah.
But realistically, I worked every crummy job in the world until, I was in my late 20s when it finally sort of actually paid the bills and, was an actual living. I did it all the way through there, but, I was also painting houses and working in a mortuary and various other things. And,
sure.
But, late 20s, it actually sort of looked like, wow, I could probably phase out these other things, and it's going along well now, finally.
So there was a pretty long build to get there?
Quite a long build. Some of that, I think, was just that I didn't know where I was going to land. I wasn't happy with people I was in bands with, and I already knew David. We'd already been friends a long time, so it worked out pretty well. And when we started Cracker, we sort of knew that we would be sort of at the nucleus of it, and we didn't plan it this way, but we really didn't have a band together when we were signed to Virgin Records. We sort of did with our bass player Davey Farragher, who has done other things. He's a very well-known session guy. He's played with Elvis Costello for years. Nice. But he's also from our little hometown. And but when it came time to make the first record, we didn't have a solid band per se. So Jim Keltner, one of the greatest drummers on earth, played on the first record, and some other guys. And it was a very interesting way to start. And since we kind of started that way, and both been through several bands where there was a lot of infighting and disagreeing and bands flying apart over small details, we sort of decided that we'll just sort of stay at the core of it and, build the band around us. And,
sure.
Sort of the prez and the vice prez or whatever, what you want to look at. But it's worked. It worked for us. It worked then, and it still works for us.
Well, yeah, clearly here we are how many years later, and you guys are still out here making it happen.
Yes, we are, and happily so. And playing to great crowds, and we were working on not one but 2 albums.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
The albums 10 and 11.
Nice.
At the same time.
That's great. Yeah, that's one of the things that always fascinates me. I speak to a lot of musicians that aren't at the level that you guys are at, and some of them are just getting to that point where they are doing it now, where they've been able to drop the day jobs, and then a lot of them are still where they're doing the day job, and then they do this at night, and they're aiming for that. So it's really fascinating to me how people build from that point,
Yeah, my heart really goes out to bands now. I mean, there'll always be a music business, and there'll always be new bands making great new music, but it's a little more difficult with the advent of the internet, and people don't pay for as much music as they used to. So I advise young bands who are trying to get their foot in the door and doing it, some very, very talented people that are like half my age and younger, which is really cool. I'd love to see it. I said, we have good T-shirts and posters and things, and be a really good live band.
Yeah.
If you're a very good live band, you will slowly build up your ticket sales, and that's really what pays your living these days, not the sale of the actual hard copy music like it used to. Used to, make your living, at least part of it, on CDs. And vinyl's made a comeback, so you can make some income from that.
Sure,
of course, and selling music, iTunes, whatever. But I always advise them, even though a lot of music is just sort of given away and streaming now, and I always advise bands to have hard copies of their music at shows, because when people see it for the first time and they're really in the moment, that's when they're happier to plunk down $10 or $12 for a CD or something, and they're in the moment. And if a couple of them buy it and share it, we don't care, we don't mind. We know that people do that. So it's still thriving, but it's a little tougher now. You gotta be your own promo person now too. I tell them.
Yeah, you really do.
You really do.
I doing what I do. I get a lot of music thrown my way, and so much of it now is direct from the artist. It's not through an agency, not through a label. It's directly from the artist out there. But yeah, so many of them are doing the thing where they're streaming it for free, or they're doing whatever else just to get the word out there.
Yeah, and they're absolutely right to do that. We've always been okay with people taping. We've always been okay with people passing around live shows and this sort of thing. We sort of take the Grateful Dead ethic as far as that goes. It's like, no, it's okay. And as David and I see it, anyone who buys a live recording has probably got your official releases anyway. Yeah, most of them do. We find we talk to our fans a lot, and it's another good one of the upsides of the age we live in is that we stay in touch with people from different areas of the country and the world. There are Crumbs. They call themselves Crumbs. We didn't give them that name.
I saw that, yeah.
But there are Crumbs UK, Crumbs West Coast, Crumbs East Coast, Crumbs Southern Contingent, Crumbs Canada. And they stay in touch with one another. And that's fantastic. They all Facebook each other as far as a place to stay, or who can give me a ride from here to here. How many of you going on this one? It sounds like a good road trip, and if enough people are coming to this, it sounds fun. And I love that. I love that they network, and they check in with us too. Yeah. I know that we're busy most of the time, but we will check in. And we're thinking of playing up your way pretty soon. It may work out, this sort of thing. And
make those direct connections.
Sure, absolutely. I think it's worth everything. David calls me the goodwill ambassador, and I really do enjoy it. It comes very naturally. I'm kind of an extrovert, and I do it at other shows. I have other friends who do what I do, and some of them are a little more reserved. They don't really like to go ahead. They'll hang a little bit and come out and say hello, but they're basically a little more reserved. David's a little bit that way, and I like to protect his privacy. Sometimes he feels like coming out and chatting, sometimes he doesn't, and he should have that right. And same goes for myself. I'm more apt to come out and hang a little bit and have a beer, but there are nights when I'm not feeling good, or I'm really tired, or I know I've got a plane to catch ridiculously early the next day, and so I might pass on it.
Sure, yeah.
But I think it's important to network with your fans a little bit. As David puts it, it's good to have a lobby. So it doesn't get too crazy. Yeah,
that's the thing. I mean, with the internet age, you do get that. It's a double-edged sword because you have that ability to connect.
Sure.
But there's sometimes fans take a certain amount of ownership. It seems like.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, they take a little ownership. They go a little too far with that, and also you get the trolls, and they're just there to make trouble, and they'll come to your website just to stir up. Stir up the shit. And that's kind of annoying. But that's the other nice thing about things like Facebook is that you start to recognize these people pretty early on. They'll come on and they're in there just to stir up trouble.
Oh, sure,
you can tell. They just oppose any opinion anybody has. Bye-bye. You can one push of a button and they're out of there. So, and then I always get it's hilarious. The ones that start the most trouble. Oh, I'm a big fan. Well, I very nicely private messaged you and said you're really causing a little trouble there, and you ought to back off a little bit, and you didn't. So now you're out. And what do I got to do to get back in? Well, we'll give you a little grace period, Think about it a little bit, because, every time you come in, there's a ruckus, and people are upset. And they're no longer talking about music, they're talking about some other
It's the joys of the internet.
You don't have to deal with these people if you don't want to. Although I just recently got to my 5,000 limit on Facebook, so I had to start a public Facebook page as well as my private one, and I talk to people on both. People want to know something about a certain song, or they want to know when we're coming someplace, or what's going on with the new records. And I'm happy to talk to them about it a little bit.
Yeah, it's cool. Again, it's a double-edged sword, but it's a great way that you can connect directly with the people. The people can connect directly with you, and I feel like they appreciate your art that much more for that connection.
I think so. I'd like to think so. I know that I get that. There are people who I'm fans of, and get word to them. Hey, I really like your stuff, and we chit chat and talk about equipment or whatever.
Sure, yeah.
And it's really fun. I love having that opportunity. Because David and I in Cracker, we come from the days where you mailed paper flyers ahead to the next town, and people would staple them up for you. That was the way you got word of mouth.
You had your street teams out there.
Yeah. It was the only way. Whereas now, with a click of a mouse, we just let everyone know. Say that we're playing at the Acorn, Three Oaks. This show's been on sale for a while, and everyone within a certain radius knows about it. And if they don't, somebody will tell them, and that's everything. That's gold these days. That's how you get people to your shows. And if we didn't have that, it would be back to the old school. I can't imagine now.
Yeah, I imagine you've seen so many changes in that, because we really have, just in the last 15 years, even had this explosion of technology and change.
When Cracker started, cell phones weren't around, and the internet was not around. They both came pretty quickly afterward, the next 4, 5, 6 years. But when we first started, it was still the old school of people from the record company alerting people in their areas, and there were local promo people that did this, and that's sort of gone by the wayside. And so, but because it has, even bands, I tell younger bands, you've got a record deal now. Well, now the real fun starts. Now you really get to work hard, because that label's going to want you on the road as much as possible to sell their product, and you also got to be your own promo team. You have to be. You can't slack off. There's nobody else that's going to do it, and if you do it, it goes a lot farther anyway. Yeah,
it really does. Do you think, because there are a lot of people that try to make a go of it on their own, and do you think is there a better way, with the assistance of a label, or going on your own and trying to connect directly, produce directly?
Yeah, I've seen people do it both ways. I think we're coming into a time when there's some great labels out there, but they're a little less and less absolutely necessary as they once were. I've seen bands build up such a live reputation that they can just put their own records out themselves. And I put out a solo record. I put out 2 now that I put out myself, just my wife and I, and just maybe we'll hire a publicist to do a little work for us. And I did a Kickstarter for my latest one, and it went really, really well.
Yeah.
And I was a little reticent. I thought, I had other musicians I know. Well, let's just put handing out a tin cup on the internet there. That's that's not real. And blah,
I've heard
blah,
that
blah,
a lot.
blah.
Yeah.
But I thought, for every person, there was a little bit of a naysayer. When we finally did the Kickstarter, it was a massive success. And now, I had got over twice what I was asking for, and I did a rewards level. If you donate past a certain amount of money, I'll show up at your house and play a solo acoustic show.
I was reading about it. That's great. Yeah.
As long as you'll get me there, if you'll fly me there and put me up, I'm happy. And those are great too. That turns into a nice little house concert, and I get fed, and I sell some merch there too.
Yeah.
Bring a little merch, and usually when people do that, if they're going to have a little house concert, they're going to be some people there who aren't that familiar with you.
Yeah.
So that's another plus.
Friends, family, whoever. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a plus.
Yeah.
Dinner's about 5.
Oh, excellent. Thank you so much.
We eat in the theater instead of upstairs. It's easier.
Where's the stairway?
We're going to eat in the theater, but you can use upstairs to hang out if you want to.
Okay, fantastic.
Still there and available.
Thank you.
All right. Cool. We'll get you up there for too long.
No problem.
So let's see. Where were we? So the Kickstarter thing. How was that experience for you? Like you said, you had a really good.
I had a really good experience. I've had some people that didn't have such a good experience or partial, and other people are just sort of critical of it. And I sort of look at it as, you can abuse it, and you don't want to overuse it or abuse it. But I was putting out this record, and I thought I'd really like to do it myself, and I wasn't asking for very much money. And I got a little more than I was asking for, so I put that towards promoting it a little bit, and doing the rewards package, where if the number one being I'll come up and play at your house, and then below that I had a real nice lithographed poster of album artwork and some outtakes, an outtake CD from the recording sessions, and just little things like that. it was really fun. And as I've gone around the country and in Europe, I've had people that said, "But I didn't hear about it until it was too late and you hit your goal. I wanted to be part of it."
Yeah.
So I mean, that's fantastic.
It's a great problem to have, right?
Yeah, exactly. You know, so
I mean, I've seen that happen a lot, and I can only think it's beneficial because
Sure.
I've donated to a bunch of Kickstarter campaigns
Yeah,
for
me too.
artists I enjoy. I don't know if you're familiar with Amanda Palmer and her whole thing on Kickstarter.
Yeah,
She was
yeah.
$1 million one.
she had a huge one.
Yeah, I was a huge fan of her, and here she was, I've enjoyed all of her albums, I've purchased all of her albums, so she put this one out there, and I was like, well, of course, I'm going to plunk down at least the minimum, because that's going to at least pay for me to get the CD, and I want to assure the CD gets made, because I want this because I like her music.
There you go.
And then everything else is just a bonus from there, you know?
Well, I think some people forget that this is how we pay our bills. This is how we eat. This is how we act. We buy our groceries. And for some reason, some people think that music should just be free. And I said, well, I can understand that, but it's still a job. We put a lot of work and a lot of heart and soul into making music. We're not looking to get rich. I mean, Cracker probably makes about as much as your average plumber or electrician. We make a living at it, but it's not a huge living. Nobody's getting rich, but we want to keep doing it. And for us to keep doing it, we need a little help from the fans. You know?
Yeah.
And we got a sold-out show at the Acorn here tonight. That's help. That's going to keep us on the road, and that's in a very real way. We could not do it without the Crumbs at all. I mean, it's our life's blood, and we're lucky because we've been around long enough to where we had some radio hits, and over the years we've had a lot of songs placed in film and television, and we had a song in Perks of a Wallflower, we had a song in the new Wolverine movie.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't, people think, oh, you must have made millions from that. Well, no. You make a little money from that, and it's nice,
It's funny, I was actually someone you know, Roger Klein.
Oh, yeah.
I
know Roger very well.
Huge
Good
Peacemakers
buddy.
fan.
Oh,
I've
very
loved
cool.
them since I was probably 13 years old. I interviewed him a couple episodes ago, and he was talking about that same concept where people see you rolling on a tour bus and they think, oh, you must have it, oh, maybe like you said, that you end up you're making what the average plumber or something makes.
Yeah.
It's a job, it's a career. You're paying the bills, you're buying the groceries, and
there's the behind the scenes work. I know Roger very well, and I know his wife Alyssa, and they work very hard of selecting what they're going to, the T-shirt designs, and where they're going to do shows. And the next thing you know, the bus breaks down, and they're doing a show in a parking lot with no electricity. And I mean, it's a crazy lifestyle, and it's not as sometimes it's really not as easy as some people think. I mean, we love it, or we wouldn't do it. And Roger's a really good example because he's got a great relationship with his fan base, and I feel very fortunate to be part of that big extended family. I knew Jim Dalton before.
Sure, yeah.
He hooked up with Raj, and Jim and I have side bands and things we do together, the Railbenders and the Hickman Dalton gang is our country thing. But it's all sort of part of that family. And I see Roger especially as sort of like, I think he's the future Jimmy Buffett in a way, even though he doesn't sound like that, but he's got those kind of fans that, I mean, they are just absolutely dedicated to Roger and what he does. And I've done 4 or 5 Mexicans now, and they are just such a celebration of everything good in life. And have you been to Circus Mexico?
I've never made it down there. It's on my list. Believe me, one of these days it will be.
Yeah, you got to make the road trip. It is unbelievable to sit there and see 5,000 or 8,000 people singing along to every song.
Yeah,
that is amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, I get a tear in my eye every time I see it. It's just amazing. And I was a part of it this year too. Cracker came down, and David and I have done it, and I've done it solo. I've done it with Hickman Dalton Gang, which we did again this year. And there were other bands in the family like Sherman and all these great bands and Random Karma and all these bands that are part of the whole scene. And Black Moods this year were fantastic. And so we are thankful for these fans, and I'm thankful that there are a lot of Cracker fans who found out about us through Roger, who's a big Cracker and Beethoven fan, and vice versa. There are a lot of Crumbs who have been turned on to Roger over the years, and now they go see Roger shows. I see Roger T-shirts on the Cracker audience now, and I love it. I'll see the glyph out there, I'll see something, and all right, make it a point to go over and say hello. And Yeah.
It's. I was when I was researching for this. I didn't realize just how, I know you guys had played together, but I didn't realize how connected you were. I didn't realize that you and Jim Dalton had what you guys had going on, and then Sons of Bill. Their album,
They're
and
friends of ours, yeah.
and you mentioned Sherman. I mean, those are all bands that I love, and it's just like this great little network,
Yeah, the last night at Circus Mexicus this year was an all night, and literally went till the sun came up.
Yeah.
Of the guys in Sherman and the Hickman Dalton gang, and just all these friends of ours that sat in. One of the guys from the Railbenders was there playing drums.
Nice.
And it was just fantastic. It's just a 4 or 5 day party that involved a lot of work and playing music, and that's the other thing we learned from Roger. I mean, David and I came down and saw Circus Mexicus, and we're on this will be our 10th year for the Cracker Camp Out, the Cracker Camp Van Beethoven Camp Out.
Okay, that's like a festival you guys throw.
It's a festival we do, and Roger came out solo, drove all the way up from Arizona and did one of the first ones. And we told him, hey, you helped inspire this, man. And so it's an opportunity for our fans to come to us. And we're about to have our 10th annual, which will be the 11th, 12th, 13th of September. And
hasn't it even grown where you're doing like multiple within a year now?
Yeah, we started doing an East Coast one, but we had two sort of ones that didn't quite fly. So we're keeping it in the West, at least for now. We have a thing we also called the Camp Inn.
Okay,
which is in Athens, Georgia, where David lives, and David teaches school, and David's wife, who's also our manager, runs a couple of venues there. She's a talent buyer and runs some venues, and so it's a good spot. So the Camp Inn is sort of where the fans come and leave the kids at home, and it's mom and dad weekend, or people come and meet people, and it's kind of a different vibe.
Yeah.
A lot of restaurants in Athens, and it's very cool. And we do little side shows at some of the surrounding clubs.
Oh, that's so great!
And both bands play. And
all right, so that's going on the list next to Circus Mexicus too, then.
Yeah,
sure.
yeah,
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, little miniature versions, like they do the January Jam, which
Yeah.
I came and joined them on this year. But this is my favorite Circus Mexicus yet, and it was crazy because Roger lost his voice a little bit during the RCPM set, and he's like, "Hey, I want to sing a couple extra songs." I'm like, "Of course, brother." So and they know some of my solo songs, and I turn around and here's Roger Klein and the Peacemakers backing me up on some of my stuff, and it was just like,
oh, that's great.
I would rather be nowhere else on earth than right here, right now. It was just so absolutely pleasurable. I mean, it was just amazing, and the fans, it's just over the top.
They're such a great crew, the Peacemakers fans. I mean, I remember the days of trading the live shows back and forth, before Napster and all that, when you were physically mailing something to another guy. I've got this copy of this show, I want your copy of that show, and you'd mail them back and forth and trades and whatnot.
Right.
And, that's how I got, Fallon back when they were the Refreshments, and then, all the way up to here. And the fans are so great.
After all these years, it just keeps growing
spirit.
and growing.
It does, it really does. Well, I don't want to keep you from there for too long, but I did have one other thing I wanted to talk to you about. So we're talking about the idea of music as a career and how it is, there's a job to it.
Sure.
You got to create music, you got to do all the promo and everything like that. Do you keep any kind of schedule as far as like, all right, I've got to sit down and spend this time writing, or is it more of a natural?
I'm not as disciplined as David is about it. He's very disciplined when he carves out, and he's a very busy man. I'm talking about copyright, politics, and teaching. He teaches at the University of Georgia, and he's got the perfect job for him. He already had a mathematics degree, so now he's basically teaching music business, finance, and mathematics, which is a perfect job for him.
Nice.
But we keep pretty busy. I'm pretty much a music 24/7 kind of guy. If I'm not loafing, I'm playing music in Colorado where I live, with somebody in some fashion, either doing solo shows or writing with people or sitting in with people or doing collaborations with people. I'm producing a band from Colorado now called the Yoppers.
Cool.
And the record's almost finished, and they are just incredible. They're all in their late 20s.
Yeah.
And one of the best live bands you'll ever see.
Really?
If you get a chance. Oh yeah, I've seen them blow away a couple of headliners now. I mean, they're really, really good, which is why I chose to produce them.
Yeah.
But their record's almost finished, so I keep very busy doing that. But yeah, you have to, as I say, you have to look at. It's not a job, because I know a lot of musicians have had jobs, as have I. But it is a career, so you have to treat it like a career, and you have to be disciplined enough to dedicate your heart and soul to it. I tend to do that once I get in the studio. I like to be the first one there and the last one to leave. I like to just keep shaping, moving, changing, adding music as I go. You know, I have a lot of patience for that because I really love it. You know, adding backing vocal parts or trying another guitar sound or something, you know, and I just absolutely love it. I love doing it with other bands. I love co-writing with friends. I've co-written with Roger a little bit, and Jim Dalton and I co-write all the time, and I write with David. You know, it's the core of Cracker. So, you know, I say if you're passionate about it and you are dedicated enough and you've got something to say, then you'll eventually get there. It may be a long journey. It may be a short journey. You just don't know. Yeah. It's a combination of the talent, number one, and a combination of how hard you're willing to work at it is just as important. And it also, there's some luck involved. Sometimes you're going to be in the right place at the right time, and the right person will hear you and ask you to open for their band or somebody from a label. You never know. Mm-hmm. So always keep your ears and eyes and your antenna out there, and just realize that you're the one in many respects that's going to make it happen or not, and you got to be relentless. Yeah, you kind of do. It's okay to be a shy person, but be relentless when it comes to making music and getting your foot in the door. Stick your foot in that door. All they can say is no. Yeah. You know, I've been turned down by record labels. I've been turned down by other musicians. I've been, you know, they'll tell you no plenty of times before you hear that yes. And as I said, that's when the real fun starts, and that's when the real work starts. Sure. It just means that you now have an opportunity to go to another level. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to unless you make it happen.
I think that philosophy applies not just to music, but to really any art, any kind of creative pursuit. You know, you've got to start putting the work. I mean, no one ever gave me permission to do what I do here. I just started doing it one day a couple of years ago.
It felt natural.
It felt natural, and you know. Excellent. Now I'm sitting here with Johnny from Cracker, and you know, 2 months ago I was sitting down with Roger Klein, who I've adored for years, and yeah, you know, making these connections, and that's what people have to do, whether it's music, whether it's whatever, you know, do the work, keep on doing it, and something will come of it.
Eat, sleep, and breathe it.
You know,
Eat, sleep, and breathe it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right.
Well, cool, man. I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down, and hey, have a great show, and yeah,
my pleasure.
Look forward to seeing everything from you going forward.
You've been listening to Anywhere the Needle Drops from Red Chuck Productions. Keep up on new episodes of this show, our live events and various creations and other happenings over at redchuckproductions.com or by following us on social media at Red Chuck Productions. Special thanks to Hero Jr. for our theme music. You can check them out over at herojuniormusic.com. That is Hero, H-E-R-O, Junior, J-R, music.com. A big shout out to Paul Clemson and Theory One Productions for handling sound duties and so much more. Check out their magic over at theory1productions.com. And a big thank you to Earthworks Audio for outfitting the Red Chuck studio. See their microphones and their other products over at earthworksaudio.com. Be sure to support all of our guests by visiting their websites, social media, clicking that subscribe button, seeing them live, and checking out their merch stores. Give musicians and artists your money. We'll be back with the next episode. Until then, thank you for your time. Here's to life.